I always want to preface this conversation every single time.
When it comes to just providing increased forage and cover, a lot of times we can do that better by completely removing that tree instead of hinge cutting it.
It can be beneficial, but it can be very detrimental if you do not know what you're doing. Small properties, large properties, antler restrictions, age limits. You know, what do we get for all of our work when managing whitetail?
Things that I think deer managers oftentimes get wrong, one of those is hinge cutting. Now that's not to say that hinge cutting in and of itself is wrong. It can be a very useful tool to immediately increase cover for deer in an area, and with the right species selection, it can also increase winter browse availability in areas, particularly in the northern portion of the whitetails range, where winter browse availability is very important to survival. Where I think a lot of deer managers potentially get this wrong is when they go out and they start hinge cutting without a solid understanding of tree species identification and which of those tree species are beneficial to deer and which of those tree species are potentially valuable timber income producing trees.
Now there's many ways of tree identification because I'm looking at a tree that's this big around, really easy for me to differentiate a white oak from a red oak or a soft maple from a hard maple. But what do those trees look like when they're little? A lot of times they look different. But the trees I'm not going to hinge cut are any of my mass producing trees. I'm not going to hinge cut red oaks or white oaks. Most times I'm not going to hinge cut hickories. Maples, it depends. If it's a soft maple, yeah, that's one that easily replenishes itself. I'm not hinge cutting hard maple. The other thing that you need to understand when it comes to trees is when you look at your forest, especially most of us, if you're working with a small forest, a lot of those trees that you look at, their root systems are 10, 15, 20 years older than the tree itself. So if I'm looking at that tree and I cut that tree down and I count the rings and it's 75 years old, chances are that tree's 100 years old. Or especially those trees that are, say, anywhere from 40 to 60 years old in the times of abundant deer herds. Deer herds kept browsing them off, browsing them off, browsing them off. Those trees grew up. Why would I want to destroy a tree that is a half-century old just so I can have a very small amount of forage?
When it comes to just providing increased forage and cover, a lot of times we can do that better by completely removing that tree instead of hinge cutting it. And what I mean by that is just felling the tree or killing the tree with herbicide and then creating a canopy gap in which native grasses and forbs can respond and, like I said, provide that cover value and provide that forage value, which is going to be, for those native forbs, much greater than what is provided by the browse of that woody species of tree.
When it really comes down to it, I would highly recommend, if you're thinking of hinge cutting, hiring a professional forester to do that. Now that sounds, oh my gosh, professional, it's gonna cost me an arm and a leg. No, it's not. You can spend a very small amount of money just to get some advice, to have a forester in your area come and look at your woodlot and give you some advice whether you should or shouldn't do it, number one. And number two, if you're gonna do it, they might tell you, yes, take out these specific trees and give you a better ballpark on it. It's way better than running out there with your chainsaw, firing it up, and probably affecting things for decades to come. If you're thinking of hinge cutting, hiring a professional forester to do that. Now that sounds, oh my gosh, professional, it's gonna cost me an arm and a leg. No, it's not. You can spend a very small amount of money just to get some advice, to have a forester in your area come and look at your woodlot and give you some advice whether you should or shouldn't do it, number one. And number two, if you're gonna do it, they might tell you, yes, take out these specific trees and give you a better ballpark on it. It's way better than running out there with your chainsaw, firing it up, and probably affecting things for decades to come.
Planting cool season food plots without also managing native forage and planting warm season food plots is another thing that I see a lot of deer managers frequently getting wrong. Certainly, cool season food plots are great for attracting deer and providing supplemental forage during a time of the year, during fall and winter, where native forage tends to be more limited. It increases our ability to observe large numbers of deer, achieve doe harvest quotas, and try to pattern bucks that we're after. But what only focusing on cool season food plots does is it fails to provide supplemental nutrition during another important time of the year, which is spring and summer. And the importance of spring and summer nutritionally for deer is that's when does are dropping their fawns, when they're lactating, which is a very energy demanding period, and when fawns are growing and have the highest crude protein requirements than during any other time of the year.
It affects deer behavior, and that's what you need to understand. If you're just planting food for the hunting season, it's going to affect which deer are there because they might not be there through other times of the year when they would have been had you been thinking about warm season food plots and nutritional needs in spring. So actually, this whole exercise should be a year-round program if you only want good hunting. Here's why. We know through research that bucks and does live on the landscape in different ways. Bucks' home ranges are bigger, their core ranges are smaller, and doe ranges interlap. The females interlap. So if I'm managing that food source for the whole year, especially in spring and late winter, let me say late winter and spring, I'm getting them necessary minerals if I can put that out, or just providing it naturally, and I'm providing them with food in late winter and spring. Both bucks and does need this to replenish their bodies from a hard winter. Does need that nutrition early, not just in spring, they need it in those late winter months. So they can enter that fawning period in top shape. Therefore, they're going to be more productive, they're going to have more fawns, and they're going to rear more fawns because with food, that natal range is going to be optimum. When we talk about bucks, same thing, but bucks is all about their skeletal system. Once they reach maturity, and I'm putting that at 3.5 years old, I'm not talking about antler max potential, I'm talking about body size, 3.5, 4.5 years old. Their skeleton is there where it needs to be, but when they get out of winter, they're like a prize fighter at the end of 12 rounds. They're exhausted, and they need to replenish that quickly. And if they do, we're talking February, March, April, they're starting to build up those reserves. Now they hit spring and summer in max antler growing capacity, and they're going to be able to manifest what we want, the healthiest deer possible.
So allowing those deer to reproduce successfully, having abundant supply of nutritious milk for their fawns so that those fawns grow as rapidly as possible, which will affect their body size, and for bucks, their antler size throughout the rest of their life. And then also those bucks that are already adults, supplementing their nutrition and providing that protein so they can maximize antler growth when they're in velvet is very important. So antler restrictions, or shooting bucks based on antler size instead of age, is something that deer managers commonly get wrong. It's an intuitive way to make harvest decisions when it comes to bucks, because antlers are either large or they're not, regardless of how old that deer is. Aging a deer based on its body characteristics is something that there's a little bit of science to, but it also is a significant art form. The risk that we run when we just make buck harvest decisions based on antler size is that we could potentially end up harvesting only the largest antlered younger males. And when we harvest only those larger antlered younger males, what ends up happening is we don't achieve the full potential of the antler size that that property is capable of producing, because those large antler males don't live into those older age classes when they produce their largest antlers. Another thing that a lot of managers are concerned about is by shooting those large antlered males at a young age that we could potentially cause the population to shift towards having smaller antlers genetically. So basically this would be a high grading or a reverse culling.
So Dr. Gulsby is 100% correct when the observation is that most people are hunting bucks based off of antler size and not age. And that is a problem that we've had as a deer hunting nation forever. They say it has to be 8 points or better, it has to be 16 inches wide, yada, 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 whatever. What happens is you're targeting all the best bucks, especially at the younger ages. If you want to do that, that's fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. But if you're trying to manage for older deer, it paints you into a corner in the fact that you're not targeting those lesser, and I say that facetiously, lesser individual deer that are the ones who are actually going to be the next generation of deer.
Culling typically entails shooting the smallest antlered bucks to try to increase the overall antler size, and has been proven to be largely ineffective, but this is the opposite of that. Fortunately, what we found is that when the opposite is true, when we high grade a population by shooting the largest antlered young males, we don't really see that genetic shift either. So just as the typical culling is typically ineffective at increasing antler size over time, high grading is not effective at decreasing antler size over time genetically. What it just results in is you're not carrying those large antlered younger males into the older age classes where they express their maximum antler size.
Okay, this goes against a lot of people who are going to be watching this. And I know a lot of people will get angry and fire up your keyboards, and please do, because here's the thing. The best way to age a deer, when he's dead on the ground and I can look at his jawbone, I'll stand toe-to-toe with anybody who wants to argue that. Now, yes, if you have that deer in a pen, if you have history with that deer, I'm living on Iowa of 1,000 acres and I've seen that deer and he's got a weird configuration on his rack and I can track him from year to year in a trail camera, yes, you can do it that way. For me to sit back, like I say, on my little 34 acres in Wisconsin and try to age a deer that I might see once or twice or 3 times a year at best, that's a coin flip. You can't do it that way. Basically, what I tell most people, now this doesn't include, like I said, this doesn't include the high-end managers. You're off over here doing your own thing. The every average day guy and gal, the best way to do it, look at that deer, try to differentiate between a yearling buck, a 2.5-year-old buck, and if you're good at it, a 3.5-year-old buck. That's the best way to do it. And you can do that by body size, body characteristics, really easy on those younger age class deer. You get beyond 3 years old, that's master class level stuff. So here's an interesting thing when it comes to aging deer on the hoof, so to speak. And I'm going to be light on how I tread here. I liken it to trying to guess the age, especially of a woman who is anywhere from 25 to 40 these days. When I grew up, everybody wasn't into health and fitness and nutrition and things like they are today. I can look at a woman or a young man and there could be a 15-year difference. I'm like, I don't know, he or she could be 25 or they could be 40, I have no idea. And a lot of times the 40-year-olds are the ones who trick me. I'm like, I thought that guy or gal was 25 years old. Same thing with deer, because we are providing deer today with really high-end nutrition. You know, we're providing them with food plots, we're providing them with minerals, we're making everything the best it can be. It's really no different than people that way. So keep that in mind. Don't get fooled by those 40-year-old deer. Land of Whitetail is brought to you by
In today's world of hunting, the camera has become more and more a part of the preparation when entering the whitetail woods. Here at Deer and Deer Hunting, we are huge advocates of hunters filming their own outdoor adventures, knowing that it benefits hunters so much from the captured memories of the hunt. Each new season here at Deer and Deer Hunting, we discover products that help hunters harvest big rewards. Hey, and this season is no exception. The $1 Million Buck Bash Challenge, powered by Apex Competitions, brings incredible hunter rewards to the whitetail world. This innovative hunting platform rewards hunters with big bucks for capturing their fair chase hunt on camera. And here is how it works. Hunters register online for the state they're going to hunt in at apexcompetitions.com. Hunters simply reserve a challenge entry at no cost. Reserved hunters are then notified via text when the official entry process begins. Hunters can reserve in multiple states. Each state is a separate whitetail challenge, requiring a separate entry, with each state event offering nearly $600,000 in cash rewards. Payouts reach as far as 4,000th place, with opportunity for all level hunters to win big. Once entered, hunters receive an entry confirmation with a buck bash box, providing them with a 4K camera, magnifying lens, mounting bracket, SD card, wall charger, and 2 rolls of antler measuring tape, all items needed to begin their challenge season. The camera and all the accessories are free with each new hunter entry. The provision of all hunters using the Apex camera is designed to maintain the highest level of integrity and verification for every hunter's harvest. Each hunter also receives a digital score form used to submit the Boone & Crockett antler score, and that's determined with the use of that provided Apex antler measuring tape. If a hunter has never scored antlers before, no worries. A scoring diagram and an instructional video is provided with the entry digital score form. It's there to make it quick and easy. After a hunter submits their score and video clips on the Apex website, they're added to the leaderboard, which remains hidden to all hunters until the end of the season. Hunters may enter more than one harvest throughout the season as long as they comply with state harvest bag limit requirements. All scores are authenticated and verified by Apex marshals, with the top scores accepting awards at the Apex Awards ceremony. This is truly a solid platform, making it the land of giant payouts for whitetail hunters. Now, some hunters might think that only big deer are potential winners in this rewards program. That is not the case. There are numerous opportunities for hunters to win big rewards simply for harvesting and getting on the leaderboard. So why is it called the $1 Million Buck Bash Challenge? Well, if you happen to harvest the next Boone & Crockett state record typical or non-typical while in the Apex Challenge, yeah, you have yourself a giant mega buck, a buck of a lifetime. But you also have a mega payday. $1 million paycheck is headed your way. It's an unbelievable opportunity. So why not be rewarded more each season? As hunters, we take great pride to appreciate and respect the privilege to hunt. That now has unprecedented rewards. Next week, we'll take an inside look at how easy it is to cash in on this whitetail challenge and become an Apex hunter. Until then, for more details, visit our friends at apexcompetitions.com.